Hello, MML members, and welcome to the Legislative Team post-session wrap-up video. I'm Angelica Bailey, Director of Government Relations, here with our Director of Research and Policy Analysis, Bill George, and Government Relations Manager, Justin Fiore. We'll be giving a brief summary of some of the big stuff from the 2021 legislative session. It was a brand new session, so we are trying some brand new things. We've all become fluent in Zoom thanks to telework, which generated some benefits and also some challenges this year. Justin, why don't you walk us through some of the telework legislation we saw this session?
A year of teleworking for many has understandably resulted in several pieces of teleworking and cybersecurity legislation. House Bill 73 established a mandatory teleworking policy for state and local governments. As amended, the only requirement for locals is that you have a policy on the books. With the increase in remote access, several cybersecurity bills were introduced as well. We worked closely with the Senate work group to ensure no one-size-fits-all requirements were placed on municipal governments. None of the bills we took a position on were enacted. The increase in remote working and schooling during the pandemic also highlighted the need to expand reliable broadband access across the state, which ties into our strategic initiative this year on technology and infrastructure. Two such bills passed. One bill MML supported creates a new office tasked to offer technical assistance to local governments and to fund new local governments through grants. A second bill supported by the League lowers overall costs by incentivizing multiple providers to install broadband cables at the same time in municipal rights-of-way. The League was also active on several bills relating to our other strategic initiative, mitigating the effects of climate change. This includes a bill that reformed the Commission on Environmental Justice and Sustainable Communities to include a representative of MML, and a separate bill that would have tasked the same commission with finding ways to collaborate and support local governments in dealing with local environmental justice issues. The reform bill passed, but the second unfortunately did not.
Another environmental biggie this year was Senate Bill 414, the Climate Change Solutions Now Act. MML originally supported this bill as one of our strategic initiatives this year, but its final iteration would have been prohibitively expensive for local governments, and it collapsed in the final hours of session after negotiations failed. We are disappointed that a workable version of this didn't pass this year, but we look forward to working with legislators on next year's draft. For next year, we also expect to see our old friend HURs back. Unfortunately, despite lots of great work from MML staff, our coalition partners, and our bill sponsors, our highway user revenues bill just couldn't get over the finish line before sine die. The complicated virtual nature of this year's session didn't do us any favors, but we will keep trying. Next year is an election year, so that might be the bump we need. There were a handful of COVID bills that would have given local governments a lot more responsibility and liability if their staff had had to work during a pandemic. All of them failed, which is good for us, but we did see a bill addressing essential workers in a state of emergency, and I'll let Bill tell us more about that.
The Essential Workers Protection Act stemmed from instances of workers in essential industries that are required to go to a work site during a health emergency, and the desire to provide them with additional benefits. MML, along with a group of employer organizations, worked to scale down the bill while still providing something extra for these important workers. Here are where a few of the key provisions landed. Essential worker is a more narrowly defined term, which gives employers some discretion over who qualifies for these additional benefits in the bill. The mandatory hazard pay provision was completely struck from the bill through amendments. While the bill mandates that the essential employer provide essential workers with additional public health emergency leave, this leave can only be used if there is state or federal funds allocated to subsidize the cost. There is simply a reference to already existing regulations that outline instances in which an employee has a right to refuse to work. It's hard to recap this year's General Assembly session without at least discussing police reform. This passionate debate started over the summer of 2020 with work groups and bill hearings. MML contributed information and testimony along the way and worked with legislators on specific aspects of the debate. Many bills were introduced, but only a handful got serious attention. MML focused much of its attention on House Bill 670, a comprehensive bill that was scaled back through amendments. MML's main focus was on the proposed increased local government liability for certain police misconduct cases. MML, the Maryland Association of Counties, and the Local Government Insurance Trust succeeded in narrowing the scope of cases applicable to these new caps, while also lowering the caps from the level at which they were initially proposed.
And that's just the tip of what we delved into this year. Many thanks to our members, especially our legislative committee and leadership, for their help this session. It was certainly an adventure. My email is in the description if you have any questions. Keep an eye out for more wrap-up information from the MML team and news on our work in the interim, and we hope to see you all soon.